So let's get straight on with obviously the news from yesterday of the Bank of England pushing up interest rates to 3%. This is up from 2.25%. The Bank of England says that they're unlikely to see interest rates rising above 5% ultimately. We believe that when we see it. And if this is the highest level already for 14 years, and it's the biggest single increase since 1989. So on top of that, they said that the UK was going to face the largest or the longest recession on record, but here's their monetary policy report. Well, 3%, as we can see there. But look, Andrew Bailey was speaking to the BBC yesterday and really wanted to blame Liz Truss for what's going on. So let's have a listen to this.
I would say this, I'm afraid, I will say this, and I think, it's easier to lose confidence and it takes longer to regain it. And I think the UK's position was affected. I was in Washington 3 weeks ago. I think you were in Washington 3 weeks ago. It was very apparent to me that the UK's position and the UK's standing had been damaged, and that we all, and particularly I and others, have to roll our sleeves up and demonstrate that UK policymaking is back in action, is in action, and we will deal with these issues.
So it was all Liz's fault, but don't worry, Andrew Bailey is back in control and nothing to worry about here. This is what they were saying yesterday about inflation, that it's going to increase over the next period, but it's going to do a U-turn very quickly and come straight back down again. Now, if we think back to a year ago, over a year, in fact, I think it was July 2021, Andrew Bailey was saying exactly the same thing. It's important not to overreact to temporarily strong growth in inflation to ensure that the recovery is not undermined. It's the post-COVID economic policy recovery is not undermined by premature tightening in monetary conditions. Our forecast at the moment is that we do expect inflation to pick up in the next month or so. But he then went on to say that it was going to do a U-turn because he didn't see that sort of, in a sense, momentum continuing forward at that pace at all, is what he claimed. But he did say that they would be watching very carefully. But in the meantime, he did nothing. And that was nearly 18 months ago. Then by October last year, Hugh Pill, his colleague, was saying that the magnitude and duration of UK's inflation spike is proving greater than expected, with still strong demand for durable and intermediate goods, but ongoing tensions in international supply chains owing to transport and production dislocations. Goods prices have risen at a global level. He was saying much of this recent rise in UK inflation stems from developments in imported goods prices that reflect these dynamics, as well as rises in international commodity prices. As the pandemic recedes and the level and composition of global demand and supply normalize, these inflationary pressures should subside. So this is what we were hearing from them 12 to 18 months ago. It was all going to go up a little bit, then it was going to come straight back down. Here we are 18 months later, and it's the same narrative. It was all Liz Truss's fault, though, but it's okay because Andrew Bailey is back in charge. Alex, I don't know what you think about this, but people don't seem to learn. The same rhetoric from the same people 18 months later. Are we expected to believe a word that comes out of their mouths?
No, and it's not just what comes out of their mouths, it's what the journalists say about them. You saw that the BBC interviewer of Mr. Bailey was very chummy with him there, that Mr. Bailey had travelled in the same gaggle as him and made a gesture towards him. You're on my side, you saw the same as I did, Mr. BBC journalist. The BBC, and not just them, but the whole mainstream media bubble, will routinely say that the Bank of England was nationalised at the end of the Second World War as part of a socialist programme by the Labour Party. And yet, Mr. Bailey and his chums will insist that they, forming the court of the Bank of England, are still fully independent. And it's skipped over that it was another Labour government, not that I'm party political, but it's a fact, which as its first act in 1997, with Gordon Brown at the helm at the Treasury as Chancellor, said, I'm giving the Bank of England back their ability to set interest rates. So that 50-year experiment, even in making a show going through the motions of Whitehall telling the Bank of England, the old lady of Threadneedle Street, what to do, that repatriation to the city was complete a generation ago now, a quarter of a century ago. So it's not just the Bank of England that we shouldn't believe, it's what's said about them.
Indeed.